Si es Goya, tiene que ser bueno. No, not anymore, God damn it.
Hey,
Thank you for ruining it for us.
how long do you give him, assuming that the pressure keeps mounting? How long do you give him before he has to backpedal and go on television to offer an apology?
I hope it's short order. I think it's right now. I think it's gonna take at least 2 weeks to a month because I think people who have Goya products now are not gonna are either gonna donate it, they're gonna use them. So I think once people go to the next cycle of buying things and they notice, oh yeah, we used to last year we sold this much, this many millions. This year we sold hopefully half of that or less than that. I think there's gonna be paying attention, and I think for people, for you all to understand what Goya means to the Latino community. And I know this is more applicable, or correct me if I'm wrong, but this is more applicable to Latinos in the East Coast because Goya
Mm-hmm.
to us was the only Latino product that we could get at the market. So you couldn't get the fresh beans from Colombia, the brands from Colombia. Like you had to adjust to whatever American brands were here, and then whatever Latino brands. And at that point, it was really only Goya who had the beans and other products that Latinos use in their cuisines. So this is a company, foods that have been with us for such a long time. Some of them are not that healthy. I think going to your comment earlier on Univision respecting its audience, I feel sometimes Latino brands disrespecting that community too by giving you things with a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, like things that are not healthy for you. Like if you care about me, like why are you giving me this bad stuff? Acknowledging that they've improved some their products. But anyway, so yeah, so it's um and I don't know if you want to give people a recap of what happened in the bizarre event that they were not aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for the actual quote where he praised Donald Trump.
We're all truly blessed at the same time to have a leader like President Trump who is a builder.
There it is.
Yeah, I think that's the gist of it.
It turns into freedom of speech, and it is freedom of speech, right? So yes, I think the president of a company as an individual has every right to think what he wants and say what he wants, but he also I think has a responsibility as a company president to understand who your constituency is and who has helped your family build your wealth and who is your consumer base. And and I think he could have said those things that he said or expressed those sentiments in a very different way because in some respects, in many respects actually, Latinos are patriotic Americans, and we love this country as much as anybody else. We love it more because we, like other minorities, they talk shit about us. They don't want us here, but yet we sacrifice our lives. We're here. We contribute to the country because we appreciate its blessings. But so we respect the office of the president, and I understand. And if anybody's going to be respectful of people, are us who have experience for so many thousands of years, hundreds of years, the colonialism. So it's that deep that we respect the office, even if the person in that office is trying to do so many things to harms us. So I think that's one of the reasons why this is so problematic. Why not only what he said, but the fact of who he is, and the fact that he's a clearly a light skinned Latino who I think some of the media reports talk about how his family is from Spain, so he's a Spanish American, right? So he is a colonizer, a conquistador. Part of the reason why his family was able to build a successful business is because they were privileged to be taking the resources, land, and everything in Puerto Rico, Latin America, etc. So, anyway, so I think it just kind of also brings this whole debate that we're having about uh, the history of oppression, of slavery, of colonialism, and the things that we still continue to experience, and that lead to statements like this and controversy like this, debate like this.
Man, I don't even know where to go with this because well, you made a comment about his privileged background and how he has connections to Spain, but not trying to derail the conversation about him, but couldn't someone, if they wanted to make a similar claim about Walter Mercado, because we did say that he does seem like he came from a privileged background, pretty white, probably has connections directly to Europe. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I'm not even sure.
Well, you can acknowledge both of those things, and when you think they're related, right? The reason why this man is president of a company is the same reason why Walter Mercado had the opportunity to rise relatively quickly, acknowledging all the work that he did in Puerto Rico and in the U.S. before he became famous. But like in some ways, to your earlier point, like he had his not only his family's resources, he had his skin privilege too and other privileges, right, that allowed him to eventually get to
Mm-hmm.
the big screen. So I think they're related, and there's a reason why Walter Mercado wasn't black or indigenous, right? And I think that's to the earlier point. There's a lot of indigenous women and santeras who are African American who have done and continue to do what Walter Mercado did, but for some reason, a white gay man was more palpable than an indigenous or African American woman to have the opportunity to talk about her knowledge and her wisdom.
Right, but what I'm trying to explore here is when people start being analyzed through that lens. And in this case, this CEO of Goya Foods is now that's coming out, but because he said something that the community doesn't agree with,
Well,
that he seems
they,
out of touch. So,
yes, he's out of touch, and I'm sorry to interrupt,
go ahead.
and maybe this helps you, but the fact that at the same time as he's making a speech, we know that Donald Trump started his campaign talking crap about Mexicans.
Right.
We know that there are immigrants um, being treated and locked up right now. I mean, even before the pandemic, the way that he was treating our immigrants and the way that he's not only treating quote unquote undocumented or illegals, the way that he's trying to restrict legal immigration. And in some ways, it's not only immigrants, but then once you're here, before this week, before he said all those nice things about Mexicans because Lopez Obrador was here
Right,
in a
right.
presidential visit. Before that, his what he was saying is pretty messed up. So for somebody to be able to say that reflects both the privilege, the fact that he does not feel connected enough to the strife and what's going on in the border, what's going on with essential Latino essential workers who are dying in large part because of the decisions and the actions of the president.
No, I agree with you.
In
I'm
that case,
I'm looking for the consistency with because I stopped eating Goya food a long time ago. I'm wondering why that didn't happen before with a lot of people, and criticizing the company and its heritage to colonialism and the
so
generational
you
wealth
you
that
stopped you stopped eating Goya because of that.
not
Oh
necessarily,
no.
but
Oh, so I see what you're saying, but that's the thing. Part of that is because having Goya products in your kitchen meant that you were Latino. Like, oh, you're an authentic Latino. You're
mm,
Latino in the East Coast
maybe, yeah, maybe in the
because
East Coast. I don't think,
yeah.
and you mentioned this in the beginning. At least for me, growing up, Goya food wasn't as popular. It's probably because we just
Oh
cooked
yeah,
at
you
home
have
all the
options over
time.
here.
Yeah, and but also sometimes I wonder just how much in common I have with so much of the Latino community because a lot of the times I seem to be on the out where I think it's because my mom, the upbringing, my mom was a bit of an outcast being a Christian. She didn't celebrate Christmas. She didn't do a whole bunch of other things, right? That the Latino community does. So a lot of the times I end up feeling like, man, it's a whole different experience out there in the Latino community that I don't identify with. And this Goya thing is also something that I don't identify with. I don't know when was the last time I bought a Goya product because most of their products is a lot of it is canned food, isn't it?
It is.
And
And spices.
I also have this natural anti-establishment attitude when it comes to these huge multinational corporations like Goya. And I
Hmm.
look at it and I think, yeah, huge multinational corporation. I think I'd rather give my business to the little guy. So
No,
you're
but
go
that's
ahead.
the thing. So for us in the East Coast, somehow Goya was eating Goya. The fact that Goya made their products available and we could have the food that we miss so much was almost like, okay, Goya is one of us.
Hmm.
So Goya is an immigrant like one of us. It's a
And
small company like us.
so
Like
no,
one of the reasons that they started expanding is because of our support and our loyalty.
right.
And then you started seeing Goya doing other things, coconut water, and it's like, oh wow, like Goya is growing. Goya is a Latino like us.
Yeah,
And
but see,
you don't investigate who owns the company, how did the
mm,
company come to be, etc. But Goya was one of us. Goya is what brings our families together, the products, the things that happens.
that's interesting because yeah, I think that's a huge
And
disconnect
then
for
they're gonna
me.
go say that, right? And it's like, wait a
Yeah,
minute,
yeah. This
like
this feels like a betrayal to you.
it is a betrayal. It's
Yeah,
a huge betrayal. Like, and again, there are, and and now that I'm in the East Coast and the West Coast, there are options. And one of the reasons I think that maybe Goja is not so big here, so I know it will be easier. And even in the East Coast, there's more Mexican and other products, international products too.
yeah.
But
I've
like
never.
I know like Puerto Ricans and Dominicans who like in my perception were like the strongest Goya users saying that they're not gonna use it. And that's like if you have your core customer not buying your product anymore, you're gonna struggle.
Like,
Even if other people who are counter they're trying to counter the boycott. And but I think we should definitely hear from Luis Gutierrez.
yeah, I'll play them right now. And what I was gonna say is that I think you hit the nail on the head for the reason that I feel a lot different about this company is that I never align myself with these multinationals in a way that I tied my identity to them. Because over here on the West Coast, you have this company, Maseca, that's also
Uh-huh.
huge. And their products are everywhere. And I think, yeah, when I was younger, I would get a sense of pride that a Mexican multinational is in the US and that they're so influential. But I think at some point I did go down that rabbit hole of understanding the history of these companies and realize
Mm,
that there's very little in common with me and the founders and the leaders of these companies. So I don't
yeah.
associate my identity with them. That's why with Goya, I don't even eat their food. I don't have any connection to them. And so when I see this, I don't see it as much as it is out of touch with the struggles of the Latino community, but he does have his right to say what he wants and to be politically aligned with whoever he wants to. It's his freedom of speech to be praising Trump. But now he's going to realize, now he's going to feel the full wrath of Latinos that are going to express their freedom of speech.
Yeah,
And
and
they're
this
going to
hurts
say, yeah,
because and I know there's been some controversy. I believe that the founder of Home Depot also contributes to Donald Trump,
oh
right?
yeah,
And when you think
Target, like
about,
there's all these other, there's other companies, but
yeah,
see, that's the thing.
all
Like,
these companies, and then obviously those hurt. And it's like, oh my God, but this is like a Latino company, quote unquote Latino, because we thought you were one of us, and you're saying these things, and yeah, it's infuriating. It is.
well, yeah, not to me. I don't think I'm not surprised that a company would uh, not be in tune with its community. And it's a multinational corporation. They care about the bottom line. I don't know to what extent they care about the Latino community.
That's true.
I have to go see the history of Goya to see what they do in the community, to see how much they invest, to do all these things. But he is going to feel the wrath of the community now. And that's why I was wondering earlier how long he's going to be able to keep this up. Because if Latinos keep boycotting his products, which is their freedom of their right to do,
Yeah.
to express that, then we're going to see if in a week's time or 2 weeks' time he has to backtrack. And let's listen to what Luis Gutierrez is saying, his reaction to this also.
I hope he did tracks. I do hope so.
This is a video of my pantry filled with Goya products. I say to the owners of Goya, you came as conquistadores. You wiped out our indigenous population in Puerto Rico. You exploited the Puerto Ricans for centuries under your colonialism. And now you wish to bring about more of Donald Trump, who hates us, despised us, and has treated the Puerto Rican people with such cruelty. No more Goya. Boycott Goya. I will never buy another product of yours again.
Wow.
Dude.
You think he barely learned the history of Goya, or he already knew it before this? Because if he already knew the history of Goya before this and he was still filling up his pantry with Goya products.
But it goes to your point that if, don't start no, there will be no shit. Like people just saw Goya as a company that was serving the Latino community, and he probably knew because he's a former member of Congress. And I know Goya at one point. I knew Goya was getting big when you started seeing them doing events in Congress, and that means that a company is getting to a point where now they need to interface with the government to make sure that they either fight or advocate for policies that benefit them, or just to build the brand awareness. So when I started seeing Goya in Washington D.C., I was like, okay, we made it. Estamos bien, como Bad Bunny, boom, boom. But so yeah, so that's the thing. But that's the point I was making. Is like he probably knew, okay, you know, it's a company, it's owned and operated by a Latino. Maybe he's Spanish, maybe there's some controversy behind it, but at least he's a Latino, right? And he's a Latino who's trying to make it in corporate America and with a brand. So yeah, to your point, I think that makes us think. I mean, when you think of Univision is not Latino owned. They have Latino talent, but like it's not Latino owned.
Yeah, I stopped watching Univision a long time ago also.
Yeah, but I think that it just he made, at that point maybe he knew a little bit of the history, but like Goya had not forced the issue. Goya had stepped out of its lane into the politics of it, and to get into that space where obviously, I mean, for him in particular, Luis Gutierrez, who he was and continues to be now that he left Congress, one of the strongest advocates for immigration, congressman from Chicago, Puerto Rican. He sort of did the reverse migration. He was born in Chicago, went to Puerto Rico and grew up there, then came back. He was a taxi driver, Puerto Rican, who became the leader, one of the leaders of the immigration movement to try to get Mexicans and others legalized, adjusted here in the country. So I wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, it's big that he's speaking out against it. I'm not saying it's not. I think that people should boycott this company. It's huge corporation. In general, I have a natural aversion to these type of huge, especially multinational corporations, because it's much more healthier for us to encourage local industry, local farming, local farmers market, and even canned food. I mean, look, I don't know all the preservatives that it has. You're better off just cooking your own beans at home. Like, why would you have? Is this his pantry just in case like the zombies and the apocalypse comes, and he wants to have a backup, or is that what he's eating weekly or every 2 weeks? Because if he's eating beans out of a can, you can just make the beans yourself. They're a lot healthier.
Well, yeah, but you get to the point of one of the reasons why Goya was so popular with immigrants. When you're an immigrant working 1-2 jobs, you don't have time to do beans the regular way. So I know that's how my mom was able to cook up like a dinner in half an hour. So I think that's the other piece of it, is convenience.
The convenience, yeah.
Yeah, you're an immigrant. You only have a little bit of amount of time before you can get home, do dinner, spend time with your kid, and maybe head to the other job, or you don't have time to cook. You don't have to do all these things. So it's one of the reasons why I think there's such a poor diet in our families growing up, is because it's fast, convenient, and B, the good stuff is not cheap. So you're not going to be spending all this money on organic beans that were, picked individually by hand, versus being able to get a Goya can, open it up, rinse it, and do what you need to do.
Well, I never liked the taste either, and I understand what you're saying.
It's not as good. It's not as good as it took me a while to get used to the taste too.
I understand. Yeah.
From going from Colombia, from like fresh vegetables and fresh beans to go to canned beans, it was an adjustment, and at first I think, this doesn't taste good, but then it became a familiar taste, and it became close, and then obviously once by the way, I make some mean frijoles con pata de cerdo, no me juzguen.
Pork beans. Yeah, those are delicious.
Don't judge me. I can feel the judgment coming my way. But it was the best alternative we had.
I understand if it's a single parent family, and if there's two parents, well, I have to be careful here. Maybe
Ooh,
that's
I like
not
where you're going.
maybe that's not the
Gender roles. I like it. Tell me more.
no, not gender roles. No, it's not about gender roles. It's more about I don't even think this is applicable. This is why I said I have to be careful with where I'm going with this. At some point, there was time to cook. I don't think that's the
Yes.
case anymore. I think at some point that changed where now you have both members of the family working.
Yeah.
And then the convenience of coming home and not having to
And
wait.
if you can afford a maid to cook for you.
But look, you don't have to buy organic beans. You just have to buy regular beans and you just have to cook them. And it's not that hard to cook beans, right? Because he has 3 cans of beans here. It's not that hard to make
They
beans.
take a long time.
It
It's
takes
not
a
hard. It
long
takes a
time.
long
Yes, it's
time.
the convenience. But it's a
Unless you
trade-off.
use that crock pot right there, right
Yeah.
to his right.
Yeah, but it's also a trade-off though, because if you care about having beans, then you're gonna make the time to cook the beans, right? Somehow you're gonna have to find the time to cook because it's not like you have to be making the beans. You have to constantly be monitoring them to make sure that they're okay. You put them on a pot, you put water, you measure it, you put some salt, you put some onion, and maybe some whatever else you want to put. In your case, pork, and you set the timer on the stove or you set your clock watch and you come back 2 hours later and you put maybe more water or maybe they're done. So yeah, they take a long time, but they don't take a lot of effort. And so it's the problem is that this is getting us into a whole different type of conversation where it's just very easy to trade things over for convenience. And I understand the appeal of buying Goya products, especially if they're canned. I decided that trade-off for me a long time ago was not worth it. And I wasn't buying organic beans. I mean, this is where I was growing up too. I never liked this. I prefer to just have stuff cooked from scratch. So I've been boycotting Goya for a while now. That's
Good. I think now you have millions of your closest Latino friends doing the same, including yours truly. It breaks my heart, but I'm sorry, Goya. Se
Man,
acabó.
it's crazy to me that you align yourself in a way that emotionally like that with the company just because they're Latinos.
I think for me, it's kind of it happens, right? It's the affinity you develop with, and I think that's when you know the good brands. So I mean, you see Toyota trying to do so much to try to make you feel that you are the brand, and I think that that's something about marketing, right? You wanna, and that's why you target different segments of the population according to their type of identity, according to the profile. But you wanna get to the point where Goya was, where in some ways, like your Latinidad was defined by whether or not you had and you ate Goya products, or you still use Goya Sazon or Goya things, right? And obviously and that was pretty smart on their part because obviously the alternative is for yourself, your family, your abuelita or abuelito to be able to cook and show you how you make these ingredients from scratch, like we used to do in el rancho or back in the cuando teníamos tiempo para cocinar, and this is how you do it and how you grow it. So I think obviously nowadays you also have a mix of that where people are growing their gardens and can be healthier, can afford better food, but it's still like it was like this a vestige of your identity. Like, hey, remember when we used to eat sardines for dinner?
Yeah.
Now we're eating
Now we're drinking
sardines from
Now we're
right from the Mediterranean.
sipping champagne when we're thirsty.
Hey, damn right, I love the life I live.
I think it's more the cynic in me that I already assume that these corporations don't care about me. So that's why that's probably the stance that I take.
Yeah,
Look,
Romero, who hurt you, bro?
right? I think it helps in some cases. It may not help in others. But okay, so question for you. Okay, so the CEO of Goya Food comes back 2 weeks. He does a 180 and he apologizes and he says that they're gonna divert all of this money into community efforts to help the Latino community. Does that change your opinion of them, or are you going to perpetually boycott them now?
I think the damage is done.
Yeah.
I think the damage is done. I think that those would be nice things to say. I think like an acknowledgement and a retraction, an acknowledgement of why so many of us would feel offended by what he said will be a start. But even then, I think it's gonna take a lot to win people back, right? Because I think that I think it's just an unfortunate uh, reality of the polarized environment we live in, because then you know that they're just doing that to obviously win us back. I think if it's like anything, if it's something that's sincere, something that you can tell, you know what, like they're he and the others in the company are um remorseful for what they did, for what they say, typical Catholic thing, just mea culpa,
Hmm. Hmm.
por mi culpa, por mi gran culpa. If they do that and their actions and their words are aligned, I think eventually they'll be able to to get there. But as of now, it sounds like they're digging their heels and they feel that, you know what, we got to the point as a company where now we're a little bit of mainstream success. So let's try our luck to see if other audiences who are not these immigrants from the East Coast, like let's see if we can, if we don't need them anymore to grow.
I'm looking for search trends in Google to see if more people. It might not. Google may not be the best one. Oh, okay, we do see some uptick. But this is just Goya. This is just general interest. But
Goya Foods, I think.
yeah, I'm trying to see. It's definitely trending because when I came over here to Goya, is it trending? Let's see if it's trending. I did see it trending earlier. Oh, sorry, that was for me. This is trending. Saga. It was top 10 earlier, so it's dropping.
Yeah.
It's gonna have to stay trending for a few
Yeah, I think
more
that
days.
Roger Stone kind of
Yeah, yeah.
takes
Pardon.
a lot of political juice.
Yeah, but if we can keep the pressure, and I'm definitely gonna tell other people to boycott them. If we can keep the pressure, then we may get an apology.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not. It was trending earlier, but it might pick up again. Hopefully. Cool.
Bueno, pues, muchas gracias. Remember to follow us, like us on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, Brown Perspective TV at the end. Looking forward to continuing our conversation and exploration.